Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, please. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, that's good. So, we start reading the first foundation of this emergence. Page 736. So one of you has to read.
We have read it. We have read it, Rangada.
Okay. In that case, I have to read it. All right.
Yes,
7:35.
Okay. I'll read each sentence and then we'll see whether it's clear. The first foundation of this.
Rangada, previous para, I think.
Previous para?
7:30.
No, we've completed that. The first foundation in this emergence.
That's right. That is what I have noted down.
Okay. We have. I thought we have to redo. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to read that. Okay. So, the first foundation in this emergence, the creation of forms of matter, first of inconscient and inanimate, then of living and thinking matter, the appearance of more and more organized bodies adapted to express a greater power of consciousness has been studied on the physical side, the side of form building by science. But very little light has been shed on the inner side, the side of consciousness. And what little has been observed is rather of its physical basis and instrumentation than of the progressive operations of consciousness in its own nature. In the ability, okay, we have read it, so I have to now look at each sentence. I'm sorry, I started reading the whole thing. So, what is Srendra saying? Srendra is saying the emergence. So, he is talking of the evolution. The emergence is the involution, and the emergence is the evolution from matter. Okay? So, when matter is there, it is used as a raw material and forms are made from it. Okay? Stones, mountains, trees, animals, all their forms. So, forms are being built from matter. Okay? That's the emergence. The creation of forms of matter, first of inconscient and inanimate. So, example of inconscient and inanimate, stones, okay, mud, but it can also be beautiful stones. It can be diamonds, it can be rubies, okay. So no, it's not absolutely all something dull. It can be very, very beautiful even in matter. Okay? Then the semi-precious stones, fantastic colors, matter under pressure, develop fantastic capacities, semi-precious stones. So these are the inconscient and inanimate. Then of living and thinking. Living animal forms, beginning with the lowest forms, worms and caterpillars and whatnot. Okay? These are the lowest forms. Then slightly higher forms, cats and dogs and etc. Then you come to thinking. Thinking means definitely man. Okay? So these was said we saying how it is coming out, emergence, and all being created from matter. That's all. Okay? Living and thinking matter. Thinking matter, mind you. He's talking of thinking. There are living matter and thinking matter. Living matter is flesh. Okay? Flesh is living matter. It is matter. All living creatures have a body which is made of matter, but it has got life in it. Then finally you have thinking matter. Thinking matter is brain. Okay? Brain is the thinking matter. Srila is saying the appearance of more and more organized bodies adapted to express a greater power of consciousness. We'll discuss this. the appearance of more and more organized bodies. In the beginning, there's only one sense, like the worm, it has got only one sense, touch. Okay? Then slowly other forms also come. 2 senses, 3 senses, 4 senses. And the more senses come, the more the power of consciousness increases, obviously. Okay? So, has been studied from the physical side. Evolution has been very carefully studied from the physical side, the side of form building by science. But very little light has been shed on the inner side. That is to say, the consciousness that is parallelly growing with the number of senses increasing. As the number of senses go on increasing from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, then the consciousness also is increasing, the awareness of the physical world. That has not been studied very well. That's what Swami is saying. Okay? So, that has not been studied. Has been on the inner side, the side of consciousness. And what little has been observed is rather on its physical basis and instrumentation than on the progressive operations of consciousness in its own nature. In fact, in other words, very short, matter has been explored and studied when it is creating forms, but not consciousness. Now it is slightly changing, and now consciousness also is being studied. Okay, so he wrote this 100 years ago, so naturally at that time there were no consciousness studies. And what little has been observed is rather of its physical basis and instrumentation. Instrumentation is meaning the senses. They are the instruments by which you get knowledge. Than of the progressive operations of consciousness in its own nature. So, there is an evolution of matter into more and more complex forms, but there is also an evolution of consciousness, okay, which is parallel, and in the lower levels, it depends upon the biological evolution. It depends on biological evolution because if the form is not sufficiently developed, the consciousness cannot occupy it. That is very obvious. Huh? They take a worm or a caterpillar. You can't have a thinking consciousness there, obviously. So you need a more and more appropriate form so that the consciousness at a higher level can enter into it. That's the whole point. When matter becomes brain, then thinking becomes possible. Because brain is capable of thought. Okay? Not the muscle tissue, remember. So muscle tissue also is only matter and life. But brain is matter, life and thought. So this is the next evolution when you can extend this idea. I've spoken about this earlier also. Matter will be processed and formed in such a way that it will be possible to even keep the divine consciousness even in matter. Okay? That is what Sangha is slowly aiming at. Okay? In the evolution, as it has been observed so far, although a continuity is there, for life takes up matter and mind takes up the submental life, the mind of intelligence takes up the mind of life and sensation. The leap from one grade of consciousness in the series to another grade seems to our eyes immense. Even if you think of the jump from a caterpillar to a cat and a dog, the jump is immense. And yet Srindra is saying there is a continuity. Okay? So the leap from one grade of consciousness in the series to another grade seems to our eyes immense. The crossing of the gulf, whether by bridge or by leap, is impossible. We fail to discover any concrete and satisfactory evidence of its accomplishment in the past or of the manner in which it is accomplished. How does it happen? Okay. This is a mystery. How does it happen that the senses are going on coming from where and going on increasing? Okay. we fail to discover any concrete or satisfactory evidence of its accomplishment in the past or of the manner in which it is accomplished. Yes, we see that there is change, but how did the change occur? What was the process? No idea at all. Okay. Even in the outward evolution is only material formation of forms in matter. Okay. Even in the development of physical forms, where the data are clearly in evidence, there are missing links that remain always missing. But in the evolution of consciousness, the passage is still more difficult to account for it seems more like a transformation than a passage. A passage would be able to, you would clearly see the links. Okay? Sometimes you can see some links, okay, we'll discuss that, but mostly you don't see the link. A inanimate matter becomes a plant. Okay? Then plant becomes animal. It's a jump, and you feel that there is no connection between the two. Okay? Then from animal to man, there are grades, and there are, but it's not always very, very clear. Okay? We'll discuss these grades a little later. I think we've done that already, but we'll just discuss it a little later. Even in the outward evolution, even in the development of physical forms, where the data are clearly in evidence, there are missing links that remain always missing. But in the evolution of consciousness, the passage is still more difficult to account for it seems more like a transformation than a passage. It may be, however, that by our incapacity to penetrate the subconscious, to sound the submental, or to understand sufficiently a lower mentality different from ours, we are unable to observe the minute gradations, not only in each degree of a series, but on the borders between grade and grade. So, why does this happen? Because when the mutation of cells is taking place, it is taking place over such a long period of time. Okay? Over 100 years, maybe 200 years, sometimes million years. So naturally, the human being does not have the capacity to see the change over a million years, not even 100 years. Okay? So now we can't understand the gradation. But if we could see this slow evolution over the time, and 100 or million years are available to us, then we would see that this is a perfectly graduated and connected evolution upwards. But we don't see that because of our limitations in time and space. However, it may, be that our incapacity to penetrate the subconscious, to sound the submental, or to understand sufficiently a lower mentality different from ours, we are unable to observe the minute gradations that take place over a long period of time. Different from ours, we are unable to observe the minute gradations, not only in each degree of the series, but on the borders between grade and grade. So what is Sendu saying here? Not only in each degree of the series. The degree of the series is meaning the cat family. Let us take one example only. The cat can become a lynx, and the lynx can become a tiger, and the tiger can transform itself into a lion. They are all the same species. Okay? Or it can become a leopard, a cheetah. Okay? So these are what we mean by degree in this of the series. Okay? Slowly. But on the borders between grade and grade, the grade and grade is talking about matter to plant to animal to man. So two types of transformations. Okay? Even in the species, there is a transformation. Even in mankind, you have dark Negroid race, then you have a Mongoloid race, then you have the Aryan race, then you have the Polynesian race. Okay? There are so many different types of face structures and skin color, all these things develop slowly. So that we don't see how it's a nature. But on the borders of that grade, borders between grade and grade, the scientist who does observe minutely the physical data has been driven to believe in the continuity of evolution in spite of the gaps and missing links. So science says that there is a connection. Okay. So now, since I said that we look at the connections, see, it's very interesting. This is that from grade to grade. So could there be a grade in between matter and plant? How does suddenly matter start becoming a plant? Okay. There is the interconnection between the two in the shape of the virus. Okay. The virus sometimes behaves like a dead matter and sometimes behaves like a living matter. So that's a connection between matter and plant. Is there a connection between plant and animal? Yes, there is. Okay. It is a carnivorous plant. It acts like an animal. It eats insects. The plant eats insects. So that's a grade between the two. Then again, between animal and man, do we have connections? You can see that there are very intelligent animals, particularly the chimpanzee. Okay, all sorts of experiments are being done, and they show tremendous amount of intelligence sometimes, unbelievable intelligence also. So that's it. The higher grade of animals are the interlink between animal and man. Then what about the link between normal man and a superman? That will be the yogi. The yogi is at a far higher level than the normal man, but he is still not yet the superman. But now Mother has said that there will be a grade between the yogi and also the superman. And if she calls it, she's wrong. There will be a grade between the two. In other words, he will still have animal birth. Okay? Birth in the animal way, but his consciousness will be divine. Okay? So it will be something even more, you could say something like Mother and Sri. Okay? And they had an animal origin. Okay? The birth of the body was biological. Okay? Based on the gender-based reproduction. Then these are the grades. So you can see some grade, but still, there, if you see very carefully, it does seem to be missing. Okay? But still, there is a real. No, wait 1 minute. Where I have to be? I have to. Yeah. And the continuity of evolution in spite of the gaps and missing links. If we could observe similarly the inner evolution, we could, no doubt, discover the possibility and the mode of these formidable transitions. But still, there is a radical difference between grade and grade. So much so that the passage from one to another seems a new creation, a miracle of metamorphosis rather than a natural, predictable development or quiet passing from one state of being to another, with its well-marked steps arranged in an easy sequence. What Sridhar is saying is, when we examine the evolution from matter, it is, if it were like a staircase, each step very clearly going to the next one, we can see the whole connection, or even better, a ramp. Okay? Each the ramp. But it is not like that. So we are saying it is like a jump from ground floor to first floor to second floor. It's like a jump. We don't see the connection. That's what we are saying in the plan. Okay? Now, to make this idea very clear, we'll just read the summary of what he's saying and then we'll go on to the next paragraph. Okay? This is a summary that I have written out. So don't look for it. You don't have the text. Just listen. The physical and biological evolution has been observed and studied by Darwin. But the inner, the psychological evolution has not been evaluated at all. In the biological evolution of living forms, that continuity has been seen. Yet, from the consciousness point of view, the leap from grade to higher grade seems almost miraculous. How does matter become life? And how again does plant life become animal life? How does mental awareness come into the sub-mental, unintelligent life? These transitions seem impossible. However, if sufficiently scrutinized, perhaps the links in this inner development could be discovered. Still, the transitions do seem to be miracles of metamorphosis. He's talking of the grades between the material evolution and the consciousness evolution. The consciousness evolution seems much more difficult to see the connecting steps. That's what Sayadaw said. Okay, so now we go to the next one. These gulfs appear deeper. Somebody has to read, one of you, Sunki, or Jasmine. Anybody who has a text?
Yes,
I
Ranga.
can read. Ranga, I will read.
Okay, both are suggesting. So,
Yes, Jasmine, read.
yeah. Sunki, I suggested your name first. Go ahead.
Yes, I will read.
Go ahead. These gulfs.
Yes, these gulfs appear deeper but less wide as we rise higher in the scale of nature. If these are rudiments of life reaction in the metal, as has been recently contended, it may be identical with the life reaction in the plant in its essence. But what might be called the vital physical difference is so considerable that one seems to us inanimate, the other, though not apparently conscious, might be called a living creature. Between the highest plant life and lowest animal, the gulf is visibly deeper, for it is the difference between mind and the entire absence of any apparent or even rudimentary movement of mind. In the one, the stuff of mental consciousness is unawakened, though there is a life of vital reactions, a suppressed or subconscious, or perhaps only submental sense vibration, which seems to be intensely active. In the other, though the life is at first less automatic and secure in the subconscious way of living, and its own new way of overt consciousness imperfectly determined, still mind is awakened. There is a conscious life, a profound transition has been made. But the community of the phenomenon of life between plant and animal, however different, their organization narrows the gulf, even though it does not feel in its profundity. Between the highest animal and the lowest man, there is a still deeper, though narrower gulf to be crossed, the gulf between sense mind and the intellect. For however, we may insist on the primitive nature of the savage, we cannot alter the fact that the most primitive human being has above and beyond the sense mind, emotional vitality, and primary practical intelligence, which we share with the animals, the human intellect and is capable, in whatever limits, of reflection, ideas, conscious invention, religious and ethical thought and feeling, everything fundamental of which man as a race is capable. He has the same kind of intelligence. It differs only in its past instruction and formative training and the degree of its developed capacity, intensity, and activity. Still, in spite of these dividing furrows, we can no longer suppose that God or some demiurge has manufactured each genus and species ready-made in body and in consciousness, and left the matter there, having looked upon his work and seen that it was good. It has become evident that a secretly conscious or an inconscient energy of creation has effected the transition by swift or slow degrees, by whatever means, devices, biological, physical, or psychological machinery. Perhaps, having made it, did not care to preserve as distinct forms what were only stepping stones and had no longer any function nor served as any purpose in evolutionary nature. But this explanation of the gaps is little more than a hypothesis, which as yet we cannot sufficiently substantiate. It is probable, at any rate, that the reason for these radical differences is to be found in the working of the inner force, nor in the outer process of the evolutionary transition. If we look at it more deeply from that inner side, the difficulty of understanding ceases. These transitions become intelligent and indeed inevitable by the very nature of the evolutionary process and its principle.
So he is talking about the grades in the evolution of consciousness, not the material not the material evolution, but the consciousness evolution. Okay? So he is discussing, and let's see what he says. These gulfs, okay, the gulfs between the psychological condition of a caterpillar to a dog and from a dog to a man. Okay, so this is the psychological condition, okay, the consciousness condition. These gulfs appear deeper but less wide, okay, as we rise higher in the scale of nature. What do you mean by deeper but less wide? Because take the change from animal to man, okay? The less wide because the animal psychology and the human psychology is almost very, very clear, okay? It's almost the same, okay? Only a little bit of difference. It is more, emotion is more intense in man. Okay? But the same thing, we have jealousy, animals also have jealousy. We have egoistic tendencies, animal also, we get angry, the animal also gets angry. Okay, so it is less wide. You can see a clear connection. But what do you mean by deeper? So these gulfs appear deeper because the animal does not have any sense of morality. And that's a huge difference. Whereas now you come to man and he has a sense of morality. What is right and what is wrong. Okay? It's a huge leap. The animal absolutely does not have that. What is right and what is wrong. Okay? So evil. The concept of evil is not there in the animal at all. That's what one thing, at least it looks like that. That's what Sri means by appear deeper but less wide. And also note the word appear deeper. Because nowadays, so many videos are coming out where you see that animals also are sensitive. Okay? They understand some things. So, simply use the word appear deeper, but less wide. Now, we discuss these two, deeper and wider we have discussed. Now we go to the next. As we rise higher in the scale of nature, if there are rudiments of life reaction in the metal, he's starting from the lowest level. Okay? If there are rudiments, the beginnings, okay, of life reaction in the metal, as has been recently contended, it may be identical with life reaction in the plant and its essence. Okay? So, in fact, they speak nowadays of metal fatigue. They use the word metal fatigue, but after a machine has been used for a long time, inner cracks develop in the metal, okay, which you can't see, but an X-ray will reveal them. That's why accidents happen in cars and aeroplanes and all. The metal fatigue is one of the causes of accidents. Okay, so that's what he's talking about here. The life reaction in the plant is maybe similar. But what might be called vital physical difference is so considerable that one seems to us inanimate, the other, though not apparently conscious, may be called a living creature. So, still, if you look very carefully, there is a connection, but it doesn't look like that. Okay, that's what Samuel said. Now, between the highest plant life and the lowest animal, the gulf is visibly deeper. Okay? The gulf is deeper. The highest plant life, which would be considered the highest plant life? Okay, there are some forms of plants which are much lower in the scale, and the lowest animal. Okay, the gulf is visibly deeper. Take the highest plant life, you could say the mimosa plant. Okay, because it is sensitive to touch. You could say that that's a higher plant form than a, let us say, any plant, any other plant, or any banyan tree, for instance. It doesn't seem to react to any touch. Between the highest plant life and lowest animal, the gulf is visibly deeper. But, for it is the difference between mind and the entire absence of any apparent or even rudimentary movement of mind. In the animal, there is a movement of mind. However, in the unconscious it may be, but there is a movement of mind. But there does not seem to be any movement at all of mind in the plant. That's what Sridhar pointed out. In the one, the stuff of mental consciousness is unawakened, though there is a life of vital reactions. Okay? So, the consciousness in the plant is unawakened, but it is there. Okay? But this you can see only when man grows in consciousness, he can't see otherwise. That's why Sridhar said it has not been examined thoroughly yet. The development of consciousness has not been studied. You can't because you don't have the capacity. But if you are in a yogic condition, then you will see the connections. That's what Sridhar is saying. So even in the plant, there is consciousness but unawakened. Though there is a life of vital reactions. The vital reaction in a plant, if you touch it, it reacts. Okay. Nowadays, even science has admitted that plants are sensitive to touch. They have experimented with electrodes put in the plant, and you see that you've got reactions of pleasure and pain, plants. So that is very obvious. And if you are a spiritual person, like say a mother, okay, she can even see that plants can even send out messages, vibrations of message. I refer you to the experience she had of plants telling her vegetables, saying, don't take me, I'm not yet ready. And some vegetables are saying, I'm ready, you can take me. Okay. So, but let me tell you one thing interesting. When I was in the press, I printed a book for an American. And the book was Talk with Trees. Okay? So even a normal human being can sometimes react with plants, okay, and get messages. You can interact with plants, okay. So I pointed out to him that mother had this experience, and he used that for the preface of his book, okay. So even ordinary, even more surprising. The other day I saw a video in which you are related, okay, that's what I'm telling you. There was a leopard which had been caught because it was being very dangerously, it was killing unnecessarily other animals. So it was taken out and kept separated, okay. And it was always sullen. It was always depressed and angry. If anyone approached it, it would always start showing anger. Okay, so somebody thought of an interesting experiment. They said that there is a person who can talk with animals and understand them. Okay? There are many movies also nowadays on this subject. The Horse Whisperer and things like that. There are many, very interesting things. So you can communicate with animals without talk. Okay? So this lady was brought in to see whether she could make out why this leopard is behaving in this manner. Okay? And she sat with the leopard. Leopard was in the cage and she's sitting beside it. And for a long time she went on. And then she understood why that animal, why that leopard was showing anger. It happened that 2-3 years earlier, before it turned violent, it had undergone a very critical experience in which its own leopard babies were either killed or something like that. Okay, so that was the reaction that she was having. So this lady who could communicate with the leopard understood this, and she told this to the owner of the leopard. And they made inquiries, and they found that it's true. So, if you have a capacity to look into the subtler aspects, you will see the connections. That's what Sridhar said. But if you don't have the capacity to see subtler reality, then the jump from one level to another level seems miraculous. Okay? From plant to animal to man, the jump seems miraculous. But there is actually a connection. And the connection is in consciousness. The consciousness is dormant in the matter. It is slightly awakes in the lower forms of life, and it goes on increasing. Consciousness is increasing. Okay? And that's what Swami is saying in this. What he's saying here, that's what he's saying. Now, I'm in the middle of a para. But it's so interesting that I gave you some examples to show that there are people who can see the connections, even if you're not a yogi. So, what might be called vital physical difference that we said, vital physical difference is the mimosa plant can not show you its emotions, but it can have it closes when you touch it. Okay? The vital physical difference is so considerable that one seems to us in any way, the other, though not apparently conscious, might be called a living creature. Between the highest plant life and lowest animal, the gulf is visibly deeper. What is the difference between mind and the entire absence of any apparent or even rudimentary movement of mind? In the one, the stuff of mental consciousness is unawakened, though there is a life of vital reactions, is suppressed or subconscious or perhaps only submental sense vibration, which seems to be intensely active. In the other, though the life is at first less automatic and secure in the subconscious way of living, and in its own new way of overt consciousness, imperfectly determined, still mind is awakened. There is a conscious life, a profound transition has been made. But the community of the phenomenon of life between plant and animal, however different their organization, narrows the gulf, even though it does not fill in its profundity. Between the highest animal and the lowest man, there is a still deeper, though narrower gulf to be crossed. This is again the same thing. He's talking about gulf and a wideness. So the gulf is tremendous because the animal cannot think of God. It cannot think of the infinite, but man can think of the infinite. So the gulf is very deep. But superficially, if you see, the psychology of an animal and that of a man is very similar. So therefore, he's saying there is still deeper, to narrower gulf. The narrower gulf is the psychological, superficial psychology. And the still deeper one is exactly as I said, man can have a spiritual life. He can think of God, he can think of the infinite, but the animal can never think of the infinite. Not possible, nor of God. So that's the deeper. And the narrower and shallower thing is the apparent psychological condition of the animal and a human being. The sense, the gulf between sense, mind, and nature For, however we may insist on the primitive nature of the savage, we cannot alter the fact that the most primitive human being has above and beyond the sense mind emotional vitality and primary practical intelligence, which we share with the animals. A human intellect and is capable, in whatever limits of reflection, ideas, conscious invention, religious and ethical thought and feeling. Exactly. Okay? Religious thought and feeling is capable in man, but not in the animal. It's a huge difference. Everything fundamental of which man is as a race is capable. He has the same kind of intelligence. It differs only in its past instruction and formative training, and the degree of its developed capacity, intensity, and activity. By the way, it's already 8:40 gone, so tomorrow we will complete the para. Okay, there's a little bit left. I will take it up from the last bit of page 737, and then we'll finish it. But we saw just now that the gulf he's talking about is exactly this. Man can think of the divine. He can think of the infinite, but not the animal. So we'll take it up from there. Okay, and finish the pattern. It's already 7:40 past 42. So I stop here. It's a very interesting discussion, yeah? But you have to understand what he's saying. The gulf and the deep, the wider and gulf. That's what it's an interesting comparison is making. Wider is and the gulf, depth and wideness is comparing. Okay. I hope you understood what he's saying. Okay, we meet you tomorrow and continue from there.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay.
Thank you, Rangada.
Thank you, Rangada.
Okay. Au revoir, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dada.
Okay.